Topic for today's presentation is plant parasitic nematodes, the hidden enemies to the plants. I know for most of you nematode might be a new term for hearing. In the coming slides, I will share you a brief knowledge about the nematodes and their importance in the plants. The topic which I am going to cover in this presentation include a brief introduction about nematodes, different types of nematodes based on their feeding habits, plant parasitic nematodes and their importance, the different management techniques involved in minimizing the nematode population. Generally, nematodes are microscopic in nature, which we could not see through our naked eye. See the first picture, it's the typical plant parasitic nematode. These nematodes usually resemble thread shape. Apart from infesting plants, there are different types of nematodes like free-living nematodes, animal and human parasitic nematodes, and beneficial nematodes. Each group vary in the morphology. Plant parasitic nematodes have hypodermal needle-like structure called stylet, which is being used to suck the plant sap. It's a typical structure found in plant parasitic nematode. In the second picture, you can see the stylet. Third picture is the free-living nematode, which won't feed on plants. Hence, stylet is absent in them. Instead, they will be having a tooth-like structure. First, let us see about human parasitic nematodes. Nematode infesting humans are called as helminths, and the study is called as helminthology. Major helminths affecting humans include roundworms, filarial worms, hookworms, pinworms, and guinea worms. First, intestinal worm, Ascaris lumbricoides. In human, it causes the symptoms of abdominal discomfort, fever, coughing, nausea, and vomiting. The roundworm pass their eggs in the human stool. Eggs of helminths can be seen in the soil contaminated by human fecus or uncooked food contaminated by soil that contains roundworm eggs. Next is filarial worm. They dwell within the lymphatics and the subcutaneous tissues of the humans. When a mosquito bites a person who has lymphatic filariasis, microscopic worms circulating in the person's blood enter and infect the mosquito. When the infected mosquito bites another person, the microscopic worm passes from the mosquito through the skin and travel to the lymph vessel of the person. It causes the symptoms like fever, skin exfoliation, lymph or genital swelling. Repeated inflammation leads to lymphatic damage, elephantiasis of the legs, arms, scrotum, vulva and the breast. That is hookworm. Its infection initially causes itching and rashes. In severe cases, it leads to abdominal pain, diarrhea, weight loss and tiredness. The larva matures and penetrates the skin of humans. Hookworm infection is transmitted primarily by walking in the barefoot on the contaminated soil. Next is pinworm. Its pinworm infection causes itching in the anal area. This can make sleeping difficult. Pinworm are spread when an infected person scratches his or her anal area and the eggs get under his or her fingernails. Nematode eggs can also be transmitted to the fingers from clothing or bedding and then spread around the home. A person becomes infected with guinea worm disease when he drinks water that contains water fleas infected with guinea worm larva. Initially, there won't be any symptom. Guinea worm disease doesn't kill, but infected people become non-functional for several months. Now we will move on to plant parasitic nematodes. Nematode is a word derived from Greek language meaning resembling a thread. Study of nematodes are called as nematology. Generally, nematodes don't have eyes or teeth. Instead, in head, they have a hollow mouth sphere that resembles like a hypodermal needle, which we call as stylet, which I explained in the introduction slide itself. Nematode uses this stylet to puncture the plant cells and withdraw nutrients from the plant cells. If you take a small handful of soil, it may contain several thousands of nematodes in it. Most of the plant feeding nematodes live in the soil and feed on the plant roots. Nematodes usually prefer the temperature range of 15 to 30 degrees Celsius for the survival, multiplication and infection. Nematode life cycle has totally 6 stages. 1 egg stage, 4 juvenile stages, J1, J2, J3, J4 and an adult stage. All the life stages are direct. First stage juvenile, that is J1, it can be seen inside the egg, and only the second stage juvenile, that is J2, hatch out from the egg by making severe stylet thrust against the eggshell. Second stage juvenile is the infective stage of the nematodes, that is J2, which infests the plant and cause diseases. Before seeing the important plant parasitic nematodes, first let us see the classification of nematodes based on their feeding habits. First is ectoparasitic nematodes. These nematodes are found on the root surface and feed on the root tips and ultimately inhibit root elongation. They are migratory or sedentary in nature. Next is endoparasitic nematode. They enter inside the root and feed the root region from inside. They also have sedentary and migratory forms. Third is semi-endoparasites. In semi-endoparasites, usually head of the nematode penetrates into the root, while the remaining portion of the nematodes can be seen outside the roots. These three forms of the nematode infest field crops, horticulture crops, ornamental crops, etc. and they cause the yield loss of about 8 to 80%. Here, first picture is sedentary endoparasitic nematode, that is root knot nematode. Second picture is migratory endoparasitic nematode. And last picture is semi-endoparasitic nematode. Let us see the important plant parasitic nematodes one by one. First is wheat seed gall nematode, Angwina tritici. Seed gall nematode, Angwina tritici. It causes ear-cockle disease on wheat and barley. It is the first plant parasitic nematode recorded in the literature. A nematode vectored bacterial disease, that is called as Tundu, is also commonly found associated with this ear-cockle nematode problem. This nematode infested plants exhibit the symptoms of basal swelling of the stem, twisted and crinkled leaves. If you see, some of the leaves remain folded with the tips held near the growing point. Severely infested seedlings are stunted and may die prematurely. The ears emerge 30 to 40 days earlier in the diseased plants. Affected ear heads are shorter and broader. The most specific symptom is the conversion of either all or few grains into ear cockles. The cockles or galls are smaller, dark brown and irregular in shape compared to healthy seeds. See the first picture, it's the wheat seed galls. The upper one is the healthier seeds. This nematode along with the bacterium, that is Clavibacter tritici, causes Tundu disease or yellow ear rot in wheat. Initial symptoms of Tundu are similar to ear cockle disease. Tundu disease infested plants produce yellow slimy ooze or gums on the leaves, stems and ear heads. This yellow slime can be seen trickling down the tissue in humid weather and becomes hard, brittle and brown on drying. Tundu is more damaging than ear cockle. Main source of inoculum is cockle mixed with seeds. If you see, each gall may have 3000 to 12,000 second stage juvenile J2 in quiescent stage. The last picture is the nematode juveniles present in the seed gall. When these seed galls come in contact with moist soil, they absorb moisture and become soft. They swell, rupture and second stage juveniles inside the seed become active, come out into the soil within 10 to 15 days. The juveniles then invade the growing seedlings and its leaf sheath. A thin film of water is usually required on the seedling surface so that the juvenile can move on the growing tip where it gets entered into the endoparasitic mode of life. During this stage, the nematodes are enclosed in cavities formed by the overgrowth of floral initials, which eventually turn into galls. The juveniles molt 3 times within 3 to 5 days after invasion of La Pramodia and change into adult males and females. Several male and females are present in a gall. Mating occurs and females start laying eggs within the next 6 to 12 days. Several thousands of eggs are laid inside the newly formed galls, which replace the developing seed. The adult die and the eggs hatch into second stage juveniles. When crop reaches maturity, the galls turn brown in color and second stage juvenile become quiescent and fill the entire cavity of the galls. The second stage juvenile in seed gall can live for many years, even for 28 years. That is a great number of years. During harvest, seed galls are collected along with healthy seeds. Thus, when the seeds are sown for next crop season, nematode life cycle is also repeated. This nematode can be controlled by the use of certified seeds, proper cleaning of the seeds, winnowing, use of certified seeds, roguing in the fields, and hot water treatments like pre-soaking the galls for 4 to 6 hours in ordinary water and then exposed to the hot water at 54 degrees Celsius for 10 minutes. The principle being involved in this is to reactivate the quiescent second stage juvenile before killing them with hot water. And we can go for growing resistant varieties like Kenred. Root knot nematode, Melidogene species. This nematode is polyphagous in nature, that's it infects many crops like vegetables, fruits, pulses and ornamentals. Infestation of this nematode results in the formation of root knots or root galls. In the second picture, you can see the galls formed in tomato roots due to the root knot nematode infestation. General symptoms of root knot nematode is stunting of the plants. Fields infested with root knot nematodes show patches in the fields where plant size is reduced. Severely damaged plants often show nutrient deficiency symptoms which can complicate the diagnosis. These nematode damage symptoms are clear in the roots as galls. High population density of the nematode at sowing can kill the plants at the seedling stage itself. Mature plants exhibit temporary wilting in the afternoon time, that we call it as day wilting. This nematode is sedentary endoparasites of underground plant pots. Each female will lay about 200 to 300 oval eggs, which are confined in a gelatinous matrix as a single mass, which makes its size larger than the female body. This nematode female is usually present inside the gall tissue while the egg mass protrude out of the host tissues. This nematode usually feed on the vascular regions of the plant roots. While feeding, they induce a specialized cells called as giant cells. These giant cells are multinucleate and contain dense cytoplasm and enlarged nuclei with several mitochondrial and Golgi bodies which act as food supplier to the nematodes. Formation of the giant cells inside the roots are reflected outside as galls or knots. In root knot nematodes, juveniles develop into adult male. They are initially parasitic in nature. After molting 3 times, the male nematodes leave the host. So parthenogenesis is the common mode of reproduction in this nematode. For development of a mature female, it takes about 30 days, which may vary depending on the nematode species, host plants and environmental factors. Since this nematode is polyphagous in nature, crop rotation with non-host crop is the effective option to manage this nematode. We can go for resistant varieties and use of chemical nematicides on need basis. Generally, many people will have confusion between root galls and nodules as both are formed in the roots. We can differentiate them by clearly observing them as galls assume the color of root while nodules are white in color. Galls will be in irregular shape while nodules will be in round shape. Galls are positioned parallel to the roots while nodules can be seen perpendicular to the roots. We can detach nodules easily from the roots while galls we could not do that. This picture shows the infection of root knot nematode in carrot. Infestation of root knot nematode in carrot leads to the forking of carrots. Next is potato cyst nematode, Globodira species and Heterodira species. These Globodira rostochiensis and Globodira pallida, they are considered to be the major nematodes associated with potato crops cultivated in Nilgiris districts of Tamil Nadu. Severe infestation of this nematode results in the total failure of the crop. In the picture, you can see the nematode female presence on the tubers of the potato crop. These nematodes are the most important nematodes of potato and distributed in the cooler areas of subtropical and tropical region as well as temperate regions of the world. This nematode infestation produces symptoms like stunting, yellowing and other discoloration and wilting of the foliage under drought condition. And also early senescence is also due to the infestation of this nematode. Female can be observed on the tuber surface but with less frequency. When females die, they become cyst and their cuticles become brown or leathery and contain as many as 500 eggs per nematode female. It is a sedentary endoparasitic nematode and it can be seen only inside the roots. Potato cyst nematode generally complete one generation during a cropping season of the crop. Eggs will remain viable in the form of cyst for over 20 years in the soil under severe environmental stress. They withstand the temperature extreme cold, that is a minus 15 degrees Celsius, and also soil desiccation for a longer period. They will start to hatch only in the presence of root exudates. They need root exudates unless it won't hatch out. These nematodes are disseminated as cysts by the movement of infested soil, by farm implements, and the planting of contaminated seed tubers. Irrigation water can also disseminate this nematode. As high as 80% yield loss has been recorded in the areas of intense potato cultivation. This nematode can be controlled by adopting long crop rotation for 3 to 7 years. Members of the Graminaceae and Leguminosae are generally used in the crop rotation. We can also go for growing resistant cultivars. Adjusting the sowing time to escape the plants from damaging is the top priority to escape from this nematode damage. Restricted shipments of seed tubers from infested areas to prevent the nematode entry into the uninfested areas. It's also commonly followed to restrict the entry of this nematode. Next is burrowing nematode, Rhadophilus similis. This disease, it is the disease mainly infesting banana. It is caused by the nematode Rhadophilus similis. It is called by the name of blackhead toppling disease and toppling disease commonly. The nematode is widespread in all the tropical and subtropical banana growing regions of the world. It causes the symptoms like appearance of dark red lesions on the outer part of the root. In heavy infestation, the lesion coalesces and then black lesions spread around. Uprooting occurs commonly in windstorms or if heavy rain loosens the soil or toppling of the plants when they bear fruits. So it affects the anchorage. The nematode life cycle is from egg to egg is 20 to 25 days at the temperature range of 24 degree to 32 degrees Celsius. In infected tissue, female lays their eggs with an average of 4 to 5 eggs per day for 2 weeks and the eggs hatch after 8 to 10 days and the juvenile stages are completed in 10 to 15 days. Parasitism occurs mostly near the root tip, but nematodes can invade along the entire length of the root. Females and all the juvenile stages infective in this nematode, although males morphologically degenerate, that is without stylet and probably non-parasitic. After entering into the roots of banana, the nematodes occupy intercellular position in the cortical parenchyma, where they feed on the cytoplasm of nearby cells and causing cavities which later coalesce to appear as tunnels. This nematode will survive on corms and roots of the previous crops for longer time and within the planting material. It may not survive in the soil for more than 6 months in the absence of root. Control measures such as fallowing for a period of 6 months or longer, going for crop rotation with non-host crop, use of disease-free planting materials, storage of large corms in the sun for 2 weeks prior to planting, removal of affected plants and keeping the field free of weeds, use of cover crops, removal of nematode infested portion before planting, hot water treatment of the corms at 55 degrees Celsius for 15 to 25 minutes and going for paring and pralinage treatment. They can be followed to reduce the nematode infestation. Next is rice root knot nematode, that is Melidogene graminicola. In rice, this nematode produces the symptom of characteristic hook-like galls on root, which is clearly visible in the second picture. Newly emerged leaves appear distorted and crinkled along the margins. Stunting occurs in patches. Heavily infested plants flower and mature early with reduced number of tillers. Infective juveniles of this nematode invade the roots in upland condition just behind the root tip. Females develop within the roots and eggs are laid in the cortex. Juvenile remain in the gall or migrate intercellularly through the parenchymatous tissues of the cortex to new feeding sites within the same root. This behavior appears to be an adaptation of Melidogene graminicola in flooded condition that enabling it to multiply continuously within the host tissue even when the roots are deeply covered by water. In India, life cycle of this nematode is reported to be around 26 to 51 days. That's depending on the time of the year, that is climatic condition of the year. Since this nematode is found in flooded rice, there is an additional danger of dissemination of this nematode in irrigation and runoff water. Management practices for this nematode include crop rotation with non-host crops like mustard, jute, French bean, castor, cowpea, soybeans, sunflowers, and etc. Long rotation, that is greater than 12 months, will be needed to reduce this nematode soil population to low levels. Use of decaffeinated tea waste, water hyacinth compost has been suggested to control this nematode. Removal of alternative weed host and continuous flooding is highly effective in controlling this nematode. We can go for soil solarization also. That is, this method can be effective on small scale, that soil solarization, like on nursery beds. It uses a clear polythene sheets which are laid on the surface of the bed for a period of 3 to 4 weeks in sunny weather. It can give a reduction of population over 80% and it improves the seedling growth also. Next is rice root nematode, Hirschmaniella oryzae. This nematode is associated with Mentek disease of rice. The symptoms involve retardation of growth, reduction in tiller, and occasional chlorosis. Flowering is delayed by about 12 to 15 days, which results in late maturation of the crop. Affected roots turn yellowish brown and then black and rot. It's a migratory endoparasitic of the root. All these stages of juveniles and adults are able to penetrate the root at any point of root, preferably just behind the root cap. The eggs are laid in the roots and juvenile hatch and develop in the cortical region. After hatching, the juvenile continue to migrate and feed within the root. Life cycle of this nematode is usually completed in 30 days. Maximum root population occur between tillering and heading stage of the rice crop. In general, 2 to 4 generations are completed in a cropping season. This nematode can be easily spread through rice field weeds, ratoon rice crops, undecayed roots, stubbles, and also in the soil. They survive longer in roots than in the soil. Rice root nematode is spread in irrigation and floodwater and in soil adhering to the implements and field workers. The nematode are also disseminated to the field from nurseries. Management practices for this nematode include summer ploughing, weeding once in 15 days, destruction of stubbles after harvest or before transplanting, crop rotation with pulses, groundnut, jute, wheat, potato, sorghum, and etc. We can go for the use of tolerant varieties, nursery treatment and main field treatment with chemicals, chemical nematicides, and we can go for biocontrol agents like seed treatment with Pseudomonas fluorescens and at 10 gram per kg of seeds. Rice ufra disease, Ditylencus angustus. This nematode is usually problematic in rice grown in deep water situations. The symptom produced by rice stem nematode is popularly known as ufra disease. Ufra symptom appears in patches and subsequently spread to the entire field. The nematode attack vegetative stage and results in the yellowing or whitish pattern on the leaf sheath and the margin become corrugated. In due course of time, the splash pattern turn into brownish stains and the stem and internode become black in color. Leaves become discolored and malformed. Twisting of the leaf and leaf sheath is a commonly found symptom. Sometimes infested nodes give bushy appearance due to branching. The ufra symptom may be grouped as swollen ufra and ripe ufra. In swollen ufra, panicle does not come out. It remains enclosed within the leaf sheath and infected portion tending to branch. In ripe ufra, panicle emerge partially and bears filled grains at the tip only. This is a migratory endoparasitic nematode on tender tissues and destroy developing leaves and flowers. In deep water rice seedling, nematodes are found around the growing point, but in all parts of the plants in lowland rice. Nematodes are carried or migrated upward and invade the rice within an hour to feed newly forming tissues enclosed in the rolled leaf sheath. They accumulated and feed on the developing panicles, and at harvest they get coiled in a quiescent state mainly within the dried glooms of the lower spikelet on each panicle, but not within the grains. Activity is resumed when water returns for the next rice crop. The infection is high at the temperature range of 27 to 30 degrees Celsius. Primary source of this nematode infection are rice stubbles, straw, wild rice and weeds found in the rice field. The nematode can be overwintered through the quiescent stage, that is fourth stage juvenile undergo quiescence here, which remain viable for about 15 months. They live in coiled anhydrobiotic state in grains, dried plant pods which are left in the field and reinfect the crop in the next season. Primary infestations come from residues of preceding crop, but secondary infestations spread from the plant to plant in floodwater during the growing season. Floodwater spread the nematode over the larger areas. Control measures for this nematode include destruction and removal of infested stubbles and straw, crop rotation with non-host crop, elimination of other hosts, that is removal of volunteer and ratoon rice plants, wild rice and other weed crops present in the rice field, and control of water flow, that is preventing the river overflow into the field by improved bunding or banks. Rice white-tip nematode, Aphelencoides besi. It's a seed-borne nematode and causes disease called white-tip. During early growth, the most conspicuous symptom is the chlorotic tips in newly emerged leaves. Feeding at leaf tips in rice results in whitening of top 3 to 5 cm of the leaf, leading to necrosis known as white tip. These tips later dry and curl and appear as whip-like structure. In severe infestation, shortened flag leaf is twisted and can prevent the complete extrusion of the panicle from the boot. Infected panicles are shorter with fewer spikelets and a small proportion of filled-in grains. The affected grains is smaller and distorted and the kernel may be discolored and cracked. The diseased plant have reduced vigor and height. Viability of the infected seed is lowered, germination is delayed. When seed infected with this nematode is sown, the anabiotic nematodes rapidly become active and are attracted to meristematic areas. During early growth of this nematode, it is found in low numbers with the innermost leaf sheath feeding ectoparasitically around the apical meristem. So the main stem is frequently more infected than subsequent tillers. A rapid increase in number taken place at late tillering stage and it is associated with the reproductive phase of the plant growth. Nematodes are able to enter spikelets before anthesis and remain within the boot and feed ectoparasitically on the ovary, stamen, lodicules and embryo. As maturation proceeds, reproduction of nematode ceases, although the development of third stage juveniles of adult continues until the hot dove stage. These nematode coils in the gloom axis. More nematode occur in filled grains than in sterile spikelets and infected grains tend to occur more towards the middle of the panicle. Its host range includes weeds like cypress species, Setaria species, panicum species and etc. It also have the other hosts like tuberose, strawberry, chrysanthemum and etc. This nematode can be controlled by applying the following techniques. That is, we can go for sun drying of seeds after harvest for 2 consecutive days. Seeds can be over soaked in cold water followed by hot water treatment at 52 to 55 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. Use of certified seeds, destruction of infested stubbles, weeds, and burning of the stubbles of the previous crops. Early planting if the rice season is preceded by cooler period. Use of resistant varieties, spraying of chemical nematicides, and seed treatment with biocontrol agents like Pseudomonas fluorescens. Entomopathogenic nematodes. These nematodes are beneficial nematodes causing death to the insects. The term entomopathogen was derived from the Greek word that is entomon refers to insect and pathogenic refers to causing disease. Two important nematodes are Steinernema species and Heterorhabditis species. These two are the important nematodes. These entomopathogenic nematodes have symbiotic association with the bacteria. Steinernema species is having the symbiotic association with the Xenorhabdus bacteria, while Heterorhabditis nematode is having the symbiotic association with the bacteria Photorhabdus species. These bacteria play a key role in the management of the insects. Here the infective stage of the nematode is third stage unit, that is J3. This carry the symbiotic bacteria Xenorhabdus species and Photorhabdus species in their digestive tract and penetrate into the insect host. They enter into the insect host by means of natural opening or directly through the host integuments. After entering into the insect host, the nematode releases the symbiotic bacteria in the hemocoel of the host insect. The released bacteria multiply rapidly and cause disease called septicemia in the host, which ultimately kill the insect host within 24 to 48 hours. In turn, nematodes feed on the host tissues and bacteria. They produce 2 to 3 generations inside the host and emerge out from the cadaver within 7 to 10 days in case of Steiner nematids and 12 to 15 days in case of Heterorhabditis. The emerged third stage juvenile J3 can be further used to infest new hosts. Insect killed by Steinernema, they turn yellowish brown, pale or black, while insects killed by Heterorhabditis turn red, brick red, purple, orange or sometimes green color. Entomopathogenic nematodes generally depend on the bacteria, their symbiotic bacteria, to kill the host and to create a suitable environment for its development in the host. Bacterium depends on the nematodes for the penetration into the host hemocoel and to protect them from the external environmental conditions. Entomopathogenic nematodes have many positive attributes over other methods, like they can be mass cultured in vitro, they kill the insect host within 24 to 48 hours, they have high reproductive potential, they are safer to plants and animals, and they have potential to regenerate in the environment, compatible with many chemicals, and main thing is exemption by EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, for registration. There are several species of entomopathogenic nematodes. They are commonly used against a wide range of pests in the world market. Entomopathogenic nematodes commercially available in several trade names like Ortho-Biosafe, Biovector, Xnat, Magnet, Entonim, Green Commandos, Soil Commandos, and etc. But these products are mainly suitable for foreign countries, so they are available in United States of America. These nematode mainly infect different type of insect like living in the soil, like larval forms of moths, butterflies, flies, and beetles, as well as adult form of beetles and grasshoppers and crickets. Plant parasitic nematodes can be controlled by several methods. Nematode control aims to improve the growth and yield of the plant by keeping the nematode population below economic threshold level. Control measures to be adopted should be cost effective. Various methods for controlling nematodes include regulatory control, physical, cultural, biological, and chemical control. We will see them one by one. First, regulatory control. Regulatory control is the legal enforcement measure to prevent the nematodes from spreading sufficiently to become intolerably troublesome. The principle involved in enacting quarantine is exclusion of nematodes from entering into a new area which is not infested previously in order to avoid spread of the nematodes. Quarantine principles are traditionally employed to restrict the movement of infected plant materials and contaminated soil into a state or country. Many countries maintain elaborate organization to intercept plant shipments containing nematodes and other pests. Diseased and contaminated plant materials may be treated to kill the nematodes or their entry may be avoided. Quarantine also prevent the movement of infected plant and soil to move out of other nematode-free areas. Second is physical method of control. The physical control includes physical cleaning of the infested seeds, application of heat in the form of direct heat or hot water treatment or solarization or sterilization, and application of mechanical forces, irradiation, osmotic pressures, and etc. However, it is more difficult to employ such methods to large quantities of soil and plant materials. These physical methods may cause hazards for plants or operators if not carried out properly. The most important physical method of nematode control are the application of energy in the form of heat, to produce temperature exceeding the limit of tolerance of nematode. Next method is cultural. The direct control of nematode, that's by means of chemical or physical method, it is not often economically or practically feasible. So cultural methods are effective crop management practices to minimize the effect of nematodes. It involves various methods like crop rotation. Crop rotation is the attempt to keep the nematode population to a level which crop damage is to a level at which crop damage is reduced to a minimum. By growing non-host crops, number of plant parasitic nematodes were reduced. The number of years for this to occur is depending on the initial population and the rate of population decrease. Example, continuous cropping with potatoes increase potato cyst nematode population. More than 3 years of rotation with non-host crops like wheat, strawberry, cabbage, they reduce the nematode population to a safer level. And we can go for fallowing. Fallowing is the leaving the field without cultivation, preferably after ploughing. It helps to expose the nematode to sunlight and the nematodes die due to starvation without host plant. But this method is not economical. Of healthy planting material. In plants propagated by vegetative means, we can eliminate nematodes by selecting the vegetative part from healthy plants. We can go for summer ploughing. During the onset of summer, the infested field is ploughed with disc plough and exposed to hot sun, which in turn enhances the soil temperature and kills the nematodes. Then also we can go for raising green manure crops and addition of more amount of farmyard manure, oil cake, neem, castor, pressed mud, poultry manure. They enrich the soil and further they encourage the development of predaceous nematodes and other antagonistic microorganisms in the soil, which check the plant parasitic nematode population. Then keeping the land submerged in water, that is flooding, it decreases the oxygen content in the soil and kills the nematodes through asphyxiation. Nematode life cycle mainly depends on the climatic factor. Adjusting the time of planting helps to avoid the nematode damage. In some cases, crops may be planted in winter when soil temperature is low, and at the time the nematode cannot be active at low temperature. For example, early potatoes, sugar beets, they grow in soil during cold season, escape cyst nematode damage, and since the nematodes are not that much active in cooler season to cause the infestation. Trap cropping. We can also use the trap cropping to control nematodes. True crops are grown in the fields, out of which one crop is highly susceptible to the nematode. The nematode attacks the susceptible crop. By carefully planning, the susceptible crop can be grown first and then removed and burnt. Thus, the main crop escapes from the nematode damage. We can say cowpea is highly susceptible crop to nematode and they can be grown first and then removed and burnt. Cowpea is highly susceptible to root knot nematode. Root leachates, root chemicals, allelochemicals of certain plants are toxic to nematodes and growing such crops will bring significant reduction in nematode population. Example, we can go for marigold, pangola grass, asparagus, etc. And cover crops like calopogonium in banana and raising green menu crops like sunhim, daincha and green leaf menu crops like asadiracta, they may be effective in the control of nematodes. And early detection of infested plants and the removal helps in the reduction of nematode spread. After harvest, the stubbles of the infested plants are to be removed. And we can go for use of resistant varieties. So many resistant varieties are available for nematodes like Nema Red, Nema Tex, Hisar Lalit and Atkinson. A tomato variety is resistant to root knot nematode. And Kufri were nice, the potato variety resistant to potato cyst nematode. Next is biological control. Exploitation of living organisms for reduced pest population without affecting bioequilibrium is termed as biological control. Several organisms such as fungi, bacteria, virus, predatory nematodes, insects, mites, invertebrates, they have been found to parasites or prey nematodes and among these some are potential biocontrol agents. The most widely studied organisms are antagonistic fungi, bacteria and predatory nematodes. Some of the biocontrol agents used in nematode control, I will tell you. That's first one is plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. It includes Bacillus subtilis, Pseudomonas fluorescens. Egg parasitic fungi like Populasium lilacinum, Poconia chlamydosporia. Antagonistic fungi, Trichoderma viridi. Endospore forming bacteria, Pasteuria penitens. These bioagents can be used at the recommended dose to control the nematode population. These agents can be applied as seed treatment, sucker treatment, soil and foliar application, seedling root dip and drip irrigation. Chemical control. Chemical control is the effective way to control nematodes when the population of the crop is being severely infested with the nematode population. Synthetic chemicals produce quick knockdown effect in the control of nematodes. Use of carbamates and organophosphates in nematode control has been well documented in many previous reports. In recent years, many carbamates and organophosphate nematicides were banned due to the toxicity problem in the environment and mammals, which create challenges to the pesticide company to produce chemicals with lesser environmental toxicity. Newly evolved chemicals have advanced mode of action compared to previous chemicals in control of nematodes persisting in different crops. We can go for those chemicals as need-based applications. I have shared some basic information about nematodes and their importance in the previous slides. Thank you for sharing your valuable time with me. If you have any doubts, contact me at sankarimina.agri@gmail.com. Thank you very much once again.